This is the third video in a tillering series, and I'm grateful you clicked on this video. I've made a lot of bows. I'm just trying to tell you what I've learned in the process of making 100 bows. That way you don't break the bow that I broke. With that being said, all these videos used to be for paid members only, but right now it's completely free for all of you guys. I wanted to just go ahead and give all content away. And if you appreciate that and would like to support, you can go to shatterproofarchery.com to get some specialized tools for making bows like tillering strings, tillering gizmos, or you can just get your basic archery gear like quivers, bowstrings, tabs, and the list goes on. So thank you so much for your support. Go make the best bow you can. I'll see you in the course. All right, power tools. Okay, so the big thing with power tools is they can be a massive help, but at the same time, they're the quickest way to turn your bow into firewood, so to speak. So you wanna be careful with power tools, and I'm gonna run over real quick which power tools I like to use the most. If you have these, they can be very helpful, very beneficial in the right time, but you also wanna be very careful. Here's the dichotomy, so to speak, is the power tools can remove wood quicker, so it can speed up the process, but the more wood you're removing means the faster you can break a bow. So there's a few things to look out for with power tools, as well as a few tools that help out a lot more than others. So let's jump into it. Starting at the top, my favorite power tool that I use the most, and if you only had one, I would get a belt sander. And you can have a real small 24-inch belt sander, is totally fine, and it works really good. You can do a ton on that, from flattening bamboo, to shaping the handles, to removing wood off the sides, and removing wood off the belly if needed, if there's a lot there. So a belt sander is so versatile, so to speak. It has enough control that you can kind of take your time with it, but it's still aggressive enough that you feel like you're actually doing something. The second tool I would choose is a spindle sander, because this is so handy to get inside the handle so that it's real comfortable to shoot. To get that handle to shape the way you want it around your hand, a spindle sander is nearly invaluable. Now, to replace that, you can't use that rasp with that curved edge and hand work it in, and you can do everything there, but it is quicker on a spindle sander. You can change grits on a spindle sander, so you can go from a really low grit up to a high grit to make it real smooth. A spindle sander really does help out a lot around the handle if you want to use one. The third tool I would choose for my power tool collection would be a belt wrong. A bandsaw. I'm thinking a bandsaw. The third thing I would choose for bow making is a bandsaw, just primarily because you can rip laminations so that you can glue pieces of wood together, and you can cut down the limb width really quickly on that. You can use it to cut out an arrow shelf. It's just beneficial for cutting. The thing with bows, though, is you don't have to do hardly any cutting on a bow. And that's why just a woodworking saw, or even that's why I showed you the hacksaw blade earlier, because you can do it all with that. And that's one of the cool things, is it's more of a art of removing wood slowly and more of a finesse than it is grinding away or cutting a ton of wood. The cutting is very minimal with bow making. The fourth tool I would choose is a orbital sander. Just for final sanding, it just speeds up the process. And if you have something like 40 grit sandpaper, you can actually tiller with an orbital sander pretty safely. And I've done that before. I personally prefer a scraper over it because I can remove wood just as controlled and quicker if I need to with my practice on it. And also just to get in the handle and to smooth everything out with like 220 grit sandpaper as you're finishing up the bow can be really handy. Those are the 4 power tools I use way more than anything else. A quick note on saws is to know the cutting direction of the blade. For example, a circular saw is spinning towards you generally, or a skill saw, and that's gonna be cutting up. And if you cut up when you're cutting down limbs or something, what that's gonna do is possibly lift up fibers on the bow backing, and you don't want to do that. The same thing's going to happen with a jigsaw. The blade's going up and down, so it's going to cut down and up normally with a jigsaw. Therefore, you probably don't want to use that so that it doesn't lift up a fiber. You can, if you want to, put some painter's tape down and then use the jigsaw, and that sometimes can help. But if you can, I like to just stay away from it. The other thing you want to watch out for would be a sawzall or a scroll saw, anything where the blade's going to pull fibers up. So even with a handsaw, you want to push away and then pull it up and then push away. Cut on the way down. You want to cut on the way down rather than on the way up, and that'll be better and help you from lifting up fibers on the back of the bow. I mean, a lot of us already have a lot of these power tools, and so those are the ones I would like to use the most, or the ones I use the most. I hope that's helpful. But remember, if you're gaining speed of wood removal, you're sacrificing control. So that's an okay thing. You just want to be careful at that time to make sure you don't make any mistakes that would ruin the bow.